construct is how they're going to mesh with latent theory movement. Most of you know this, I'm sure. We saw the determined energy to achievable results, engaging energy for an embraced result, etc. So Laban's theory of movement, where does it come from? He created a system for interpreting movements, obviously, and he regarded movement and its expression of inner intention. And a lot of the theory around interaction styles is movement is often an expression of an inner aim or an inner belief. These efforts have 4 subcategories, and I'm going to review these very quickly, and then we will actually look at some examples. So there's space, weight, time, and flow. And by the way, weight is nothing to do with being heavy or lightweight, all right? It's nothing to do with your physical pounds and ounces. So you study the kinesphere, the area in which the person moves. And when you combine these different kinespheres, we have actually movement patterns that we can look at. And these create actions or engagements that can be interpreted. And it sounds a lot like the interaction style energies, which it does. So let me just go through these preferences, almost like a series of 4 preferences, which is interesting. So the first preference is a direct and indirect use of space. So a direct use of space is starting at 1, going to the goal, so point A to point B, often knocking down or removing obstacles in the way. An indirect use of space is more flowing, it's more meandering, it's more engaging with the outer world as you move through space. So which 2 interaction styles tend to have a direct use of space? Causing a charge, which corresponds very closely with the direct informal communication that Linda talked about earlier. And get things going, and behind the scenes seem to have a more flowing use of space. The second one is how we use our bodies in space. So it's not to do with whether you're heavy or light. And if you are more heavy, you will hear the movements. You'll hear I want all of you to just stand up for a minute. And what I want you to do is sit down in your chairs. And I want you to feel, do you sit down heavily or do you sit down lightly? The working, we used to have, someone lived in our house for a while in England. Where they said, Derek and I's room is upstairs, they said they always knew who was getting up to go to the bathroom, because when I got up to the bathroom, my in-charge energy, I'd be... And when Derek, with his behind-the-scenes energy, got up to go to the bathroom, and Derek is a little heavier than me...
It's all muscle.
They said they knew from the sound that and that's something to do with how we use our bodies, so we're either heavy or light. And the premise is that get things going and in charge, you tend to hear the bodies seem to be heavier, and behind the scenes in chart, of course, they're a little lighter. Next one is, how do you use time? Do you move through time quickly? It feels like you're in a rush. Lots of things happening very, very quickly. So which 2 interaction styles is that probably correlated to? In charge and get things going, which would correlate with the extroverting preference. And then we have 2 that have a more sustained approach to time. So there's more reflective, there's more thought, and things might appear that they take a little longer, although that's not always the case. So then we've got 3 subcategories, and then we have an element that is bound or unbound. So bound, time and task focus, this is what we're doing, this is the end result, which tends to have either determined or focused energy from in charge of chart course. And then we have a more unbound or free-flowing energy, which we associate with getting input, involvement, which Linda described earlier, which is shared by behind-the-scenes and get things going. So those are some broad categories, and I'm going to show you in a video in a moment, which I want you to be really observing through these preferences, and I'm going to call them preferences even though Labour didn't call them that. They seem to be associated with certain basic efforts. So, the in charge, lower left, seems to do a lot of punching and flicking. Pum, pum, pum. And not even aware of it. It's almost like we're pushing things out of the way. The energy is so push-focused. Push it out of the way, chop, like this. So it's quite harsh. The get things going, which is bottom right, tends to use more ringing. So let me show you what ringing is. So ringing, and often the gestures are big and much more flowing. So often there's someone knocking things off the table. And it's almost like having the, you know, when you're a ballerina and you've got the strings going like this. And so that seems to be the energy as they want to engage and get people involved and committed. Upper left is obviously chart the cause. That seems to have, as you pointed out, some pressing. Some pointing, not necessarily in others, but pointing in the way that we're going. And there seems to be a gliding movement with it. If you think of the scene from Saturday Night Fever when they were doing dancing, there's sort of a gliding motion as they map their course. And finally, we've got our behind the scenes who are floating. It's a bit like Winnie the Pooh when they've got their balloon. And down they come. Dab, 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 dab. Up they go again. Dab, dab, dab. This was so insightful for me seeing this, because this is Derek's style. My husband, by the way, is doing a really good camera. So what he'll say, okay, it's time to go. So I'm like, okay. At the door, chop, 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 all ready to go. What's he doing? He's doing a little bit more dabbing. A little more thinking, is this the right time to go? Do I need anything else to take with me?
Brushing my hair.
Go to his hair.